Hey, what's going on, guys? At UFC Vegas 83, Song Yadong versus Chris Gutierrez, we saw some horrific performances, and I'm going to give you my opinion on who deserves to be cut from the UFC after their performance on this card. I'm going to start with some honorable mentions, then I'm going to get into my actual list, saving last on the list for who I believe most deserves to be cut. Starting off with my first honorable mention, and that is the judges. Now, the judges didn't mess up a main event or a very important fight, but what happens is when the judges render bad scorecards and it's an uneventful, unimportant, low-level UFC fight, nobody talks about it. Nobody ever talks about it again. I think there were some bad scorecards on this fight card. You have Talita Alencar versus Rayanne Amanda. Rayanne Amanda should have got that win. She should have got her hand raised, but because of the judges' incompetence, we have to see Alencar celebrate afterwards in a fight that she did almost nothing. Horrible decision. Then you have Luana Santos versus Stephanie Edgar. Santos was clinging on for dear life in the second and third round, and it was a horrible fight. And this one's a little bit more debatable, but there's a unanimous decision win for Luana Santos, and one judge gave her a 30-27. They have no idea what the judging criteria is. I don't understand how they show up week in and week out, and they don't understand that it's damage-based scoring. They don't know how to score a fight. And another example of it, Andre Munhoz versus Young Park. This was at least a split decision, but Munhoz literally did nothing the entire fight. He did not do any damage. All he had was control time. And somehow the judges give Munhoz a win again. I just don't get it. I don't get it. So these were three horrible decisions in my opinion. You know, I think the Edgar Santos one is kind of debatable, but still, the other two, I will die on that hill. But nobody will ever talk about him again because nobody cares about any of the fighters involved. Nobody cares that Stephanie Edgar got robbed. Nobody cares that Rayanne Amanda got robbed. Nobody cares that Young Park got robbed. Maybe a little bit of people care about that, but for the most part, nobody cares. Those decisions will never be talked about again. But it was bad judging at UFC Vegas 83. Moving on to my next honorable mention, and that is referee Mark Smith. And Mark Smith has done this for literally years. I am so tired of hearing him talk. All he does is talk all fight long. He did it on this card. He does it on every card. Every fight that he refs, he just talks and talks and talks and talks. And I'm watching a fight with Mark Smith in it, and I'm like, does this motherfucker ever shut up? I swear on my life, he goes home after the card, pulls up ESPN Plus, invites all his family members over, his distant relatives, and he's like, look at me talking on ESPN. That's me talking. You see, I just told him, don't grab the fence. Don't grab the fence. Watch the fingers. Don't dig in the glove. Don't grab the fence. He shows his family members that. And I'm so sick and tired of this, and all the refs do this, but Mark Smith is the biggest perpetrator. Is your job to enforce the rules, or is your job just to shout them over and over and over again? Because Mark Smith will watch somebody grab the fence 17 times. He will shout, don't grab the fence 17 times, but he will never actually do anything about it. It drives me nuts. He never shuts up every fight. He ruins the fight because I think he wants his 15 minutes of fame. He likes hearing his voice on TV. He likes seeing his face on TV. He's always moving right into the camera angle. Make sure you get a good shot of my bald head. I want my family to see it when I get home and we all gather around the TV and watch me on TV because look how fleet of foot I am. Look at the way I move. I'm just so sick and tired of hearing Mark Smith talk. And then on top of that, and he didn't make any particularly egregious yesterday, but he's always making bad decisions. I know he's not like the worst ref ever, but is anybody else, let me know down in the comments, is anyone else getting sick and tired of hearing Mark Smith talk all fight long? He's the reason that we had the Aljamain Sterling DQ, because he decided, you know what, let me shout to the doctor who has no bearing on the decision. All he has is the bearing of whether or not he can continue. He's like, look, if he can't continue, I'm giving him a DQ. And right in front of Aljamain Sterling, and Aljamain Sterling just flails backwards, and he knows, oh, I'm getting a win out of this now. And Mark Smith single-handedly caused a chain reaction where more people are trying to get DQs to get wins because of Mark Smith not being able to close his mouth. He shouts at the top of his lungs 24/7, doesn't enforce the rules, and quite frankly, he's ruining fights. I'm tired of hearing him talk. But moving on to my next honorable mention and my last honorable mention, and that is Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez quit on himself. He quit on his coaches. He quit on the fans. He literally complained all fight about Song Yadong cheating with back of the head shots that didn't exist. Meanwhile, he was cheating the entire fight. He was grabbing in the gloves. He was grabbing in the fence and, doing all these different things that would be considered cheating. And meanwhile, he's complaining about back of the head shots that literally weren't even back of the head shots. And then on top of all that, and this is what really got him in the honorable mentions, but really should have got him on the list. He literally is getting dominated with the grappling in the third and fourth round. He says, you know what? In the fifth round, I'm down on the scorecards. I'm getting dominated in the grappling. You would think he's going to say, oh, I'm going to come out and look for a finish. No. He's like, I'm going to come out and Imanari roll in the first minute and just give up top position to Song Yadong. And then I'm going to close my guard and do absolutely nothing. The performance by Chris Gutierrez in a main event was embarrassing. I couldn't imagine if I picked Chris Gutierrez. I'd be livid. I'd literally be livid. Pull him from the rankings, and if he loses his next fight, cut him from the organization. He's so one-dimensional, doesn't have any takedown defense, has no jiu-jitsu off his back, can't even attempt to get up. All he does is close his guard and squeeze his legs with Yadong in between his legs. That's all he did the entire fight. Disgusting performance, and that Imanari roll will go down in history as one of the most low fight IQ decisions I've ever seen in a fight. Moving on to my actual list, starting off with a double cut, and that is Luana Santos versus Stephanie Edgar. This was an embarrassing display of mixed martial arts. Both of them looked horrible. Santos' gas tank looked atrocious. Both of their striking looked really bad. And then Stephanie Edgar in the third round, when Santos is completely gassed, she's getting clinched up. And instead of attempting to fight out of the position, she's just waiting for Herb Dean to save her. She's like, oh, Herb, save me, Herb, save me, Herb. I heard you clapping over there and saying, work, save me. Instead of digging underhooks, attempting to reverse the position and disengage, she just stayed there up against the fence. That's all she did. And this was just such a low-level fight. I'm disgusted by it. I'm literally disgusted by it. There was the most low-level striking I've ever seen. There was a lot of punching at air. You know, neither one of them looked good anywhere, absolutely anywhere. The grappling wasn't good. And then Santos has a gas tank of, I don't even know what you could even compare. She looks, in the back half of the second round and the third round, she looked like she had just ran 60 miles at a full sprint. That's how tired she looked. And she wasn't even that active in the first or second round. I don't know how she had no gas tank. She had literally no gas tank. So cut Luana Santos, cut Stephanie Edgar. I never want to see him fight again. Speaking of low-level MMA, we have to cut Talita Alencar. She gets a win over Rayanne Amanda, but it was an embarrassing win. She should have not won that fight at all. She literally did no damage almost the entire fight. Meanwhile, she's getting her head snapped back. And the way she's like celebrating and jumping up and down like she won a fight really rubbed me the wrong way. And I think what really pissed me off about this fight was I missed it. I was doing something and I jumped on stream. I missed the first fight. And to do my post-fight, I had to go back and watch that fight in its entirety. And already knowing the result and then watching it, it was painful. It just pained me the entire time I was watching that fight. It was disgusting. It was embarrassing. It was so low level. And then the fact on top of that, the wrong person wins. This is why I hate these judges. Alencar did nothing. She really had no striking. I think she mixed in the grappling in the second round and got a takedown, but did no damage on the ground. And she had no cardio. She needs to be cut from the organization. She needs to be cut. She fought to a draw on Dana White's Contender Series because she gassed out too. I never want to see her fight again. Super low level MMA and just disgusting display at UFC Vegas 83. Moving on to my next cut, and that is Andre Muniz. Andre Muniz gets a win over Jung Young Park, but he should not have gotten a win. I already talked about that with the judges. Jung Young Park did more damage in 30 seconds than Andre Muniz did in the entire fight. And Muniz just held on to him, did no damage, didn't look for a finish, and was still completely gassed out in the third round somehow. Literally, Andre Muniz is literally SpongeBob with muscles. And I don't know if all he's doing is lifting weights and no cardio, but he has no cardio. Completely gassed in the third round, literally has back position with both hooks in, gets reversed, and then just gets ground and pounded and literally has nothing to offer because he's completely gassed out. I don't know how he ended up getting this win. He lost the first and third round based on damage. Positional control and doing no damage and not looking for any finishes does not win you a fight. And, you look at Andre Muniz, you look at his resume. I mean, he lost to Paul Craig in his last fight. If you're getting touched up by Paul Craig on the feet, you need to be cut anyway. He got finished by Paul Craig. He got finished by Brendan Allen. His win against Uriah Hall, all he did was get him down and control him the entire fight as well. You go back, he got Eric Anders in an armbar. Congratulations. This guy is riding the coattails of a win from all the way back in early 2021 against Jacare Souza. People were enthralled. Oh my God, look what he did to Jacare Souza. He has not replicated that since. I think that was a kind of a fluky win, honestly. Munhoz has no jiu-jitsu at all. If he can't get the rear naked choke, he throws his hands up and says, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to throw punches. I'm not going to do anything else. He's not a good fighter. He's been overrated for years. And we found that out in his last 3 fights. He should be on a 3-fight losing streak after doing absolutely no damage to Jung Young Park. Please get him out of the organization. Moving on my list to the second to last cut, and we have Shannon Ross. Shannon Ross, I feel bad for him, man. I feel bad for him. He's 34 years old. He's on a 4-fight losing streak. He loses to Hyung Sung Park, gets finished with a body shot in the second round. He's lost 4 straight fights, all 4 by finish. He's never won a fight in the UFC. He's never even won on Dana White's Contender Series. He lost on Dana White's Contender Series against Vinicius Salvador, got finished in the second round, still somehow gets a contract, comes in against Clayson Rodriguez, gets brutally finished by Clayson Rodriguez. Then he fights Jesus Aguilar, gets finished in 17 seconds, gets put out cold, and now he loses at UFC Vegas 83. He's 34 years old, doesn't have a win in the UFC. I mean, he's won 1 fight since 2020. He lost to Steve Erceg. His last win was against a guy who was 5-3. The win before that was against a guy who's 11-3 that I've never heard of. The win before that was against a guy who's 6-2. He has no good wins on his entire resume. He's 34 years old, finished 4 straight times, and he's not even fighting the top of the level of competition that he could fight. I know he's a decent fighter. Actually, I think he has durability issues, and he's just not that good. You know, his record is worse than, one would indicate, but he's 13-9, 34 years old, doesn't belong in the UFC. And honestly, I'm tired of seeing him getting beat up. Does Dana White have a fetish of watching Shannon Ross get the shit beat out of him every single Saturday? Because that's basically what it's coming across as. They're giving him kind of tough prospects, and not even that tough, but still they give him fights that, we know Shannon Ross is going to get KO'd here. And I'm just tired of seeing it. It's just, he needs to find a new career. He needs to go to another organization or try to fight lower level competition. I feel bad for him. I genuinely feel bad for him because his career's over, but 4 straight losses at 34 years old, all 4 via finish. And he had a decent performance against Park before the finish, but he got starched out with a nasty liver shot. And, I just don't think he has anything to offer in the men's flyweight division. Moving on to my last cut, and I'm wondering if some of you guys could have guessed this cut based off the current list, but that is Anthony Lionheart Smith. I don't want to see him fight anymore. I really don't. He lost to Khalil Rountree, got clipped with a right uppercut, then a left hand, literally starts dancing and doing the robot, and then next thing you know, he's down on the ground. Khalil Rountree's winding up a ground and pound shot, and Anthony Smith says, you know what? Let me do a spin-a-rooney real quick. And luckily the referee jumps in, but Anthony Smith has been around forever, and he's old in terms of MMA. I mean, he's already 35 years old, but look at his overall, the amount of fights that he's had. He's 37-19. And you look at his most recent fights, he should have lost against Ryan Spann. So he really should have lost 1, 2, 3, 4 fights in a row. And, Johnny Walker, had he put up the pressure and had a little bit more killer instinct, he should have finished Anthony Smith. So, and I think the fight against Ryan Spann looked horrible, but he still should have got the decision. So Anthony Smith is delusional. He thinks he's better than he is. I know he's talking about on paper this and that. I know a lot of people like to make fun of Anthony Smith, but I don't want to see the dead body of Anthony Smith fight anymore. If you're going to rebook him, cancel the Dominic Reyes versus Carlos Ulberg fight. Book Anthony Smith versus Dominic Reyes. We'll have dead body versus dead body. And loser leaves town. Loser gets cut. Anthony Smith should be on a 4-fight losing streak. He really should be. He should have lost, And I know he's fighting decent competition, but his last decent win was against Ryan Spann the first time back in 2021. The dude is talking about, I can get a title shot with the win over Khalil Rountree. How is this guy still ranked in the top 10? He's a dead body. He's taken so much damage. And he's a good talker. I think he has a podcast with Bisbang. He's good on the desk for the UFC. Why do we have to watch him get beat up anymore? He's already lost 10 times via KO or TKO in his career, 5 times via submission. And he's only lost 4 times via decision. So when he's getting finished badly. And this Khalil Rountree finish was so bad. I mean, to get clipped up so bad that you start doing the spin-a-rooney, I mean, that's embarrassing. Dude put on a break-dancing clinic after he got starched by Khalil Rountree. He shouldn't be fighting anymore. And I know Khalil Rountree's pretty good, and Anthony Smith came in on short notice, But I'm just tired of watching Anthony Smith get beat up and then say, you know, oh yeah, this is just the sport and I'm a warrior. I think Anthony Smith is a guy who wants to hang around for way too long. I think he would be a Bigfoot Silva where he's getting KO'd 10, 15 times in a row and he just refuses to give it up. I think he's a guy that will probably go to bare knuckle, maybe power slap to be quite honest, and he's going to get KO'd there as well. I wouldn't even pick Anthony Smith against, you know, Wolverine or Slap for Cash or Blood and Sweat 99.5 or whatever the hell their names is over in Power Slap. I wouldn't even pick him there. He's taking too much damage and he's just delusional about his abilities. And somebody needs to have that talk with him. Somebody needs to tell Anthony Smith, look, we know you love the sport, but you can't fight in the UFC anymore. Maybe we can get you a gig at the Kentucky State Fair for $250 and a funnel cake. But the UFC, top level competition, it just isn't cutting it anymore. You're a dead body. And I don't want to see him fight anymore. And, you know, it's one of those guys that I just feel like, okay, Anthony Smith's going to come out with more excuses and get another fight and then get brutalized again. I'm just tired of seeing it. I hate watching these guys who don't know when to hang it up, just get brutalized time and time again. And I think it's time for the UFC to cut Anthony Smith or just have him retire. Say, look, Anthony, we don't want to give you any more fights. It's time for you to retire. You can show up for every fight card and be on the desk at the ESPN Plus studios or whatever it may be. But I don't want to see him get KO'd anymore, and especially after a brutal KO that he suffered from Khalil Rountree. But let me know what you guys thought of the list down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Is there anybody I missed? Let me know down in the comments as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.